In this demonstration, I'm going to show some of the new features in Artcam Smith 2013, including Keyshot. First of all, start with Project, Open, New from File, and we'll select an image. This is the fish in this particular instance, except to the 1mm height that Artcam's automatically done for you. Okay, inside here now I just need to reduce the colours, so bitmap to vector. I'm going to just use the dynamic slider down to 2 and say OK. I'm also going to say create vectors around all the areas straight away. I now need to adjust the size, the resolution, so we're at the moment at 300, I want to go to around about 1000. So resolution, are you sure? Yes, I want to alter the resolution. Right, so I'm going to check the size of the model. 40 it's coming at, that's fine, so okay to that. And I'm just going to now make a little dome section on this part here. For this I'm going to make a new layer. Start getting used to using layers all the time. Very easy then to switch off and on if you don't need them. So main body shape. So we're going to put the fish shape underneath here, or on top of here rather. I'm just going to use a little dome shape first of all, not too deep, I can always scale it afterwards, so say 26, 30, something like that at an angle. I'm now just making the dome shape of the fish. That's great. Okay, I'm now going to go into the original layer, the relief layer, and I'm going to zero now the rest of the fish on the side detail. Just get rid of that. So on here, using the same outside vector, I'm just going to double click on that, or F12, which will bring up the shape editor box for me. And we'll go to zero rest. This zeroes all the items outside of the fish. That's perfect. Okay, there's a little section here I didn't quite pick up, so F12 again. I'm going to have to do that on both layers now. I'm going to say zero inside there, and I'll do the same thing on the fish layer too, and on the main body too. And zero this too. Okay. I'm now going to just fix small holes. A little button inside model section here. If we go up and have a look in relief, sorry, and I'm going to use called remove small holes right at the bottom here. So remove small holes, just a couple of those. It just takes any holes that it's missed, it will just fix them for me. Okay, I'm going to make these into one component now. I'm going to merge these two together, just using the merge button here. It'll put both those together. I'm now just going to run a smoothing pass over that top surface. So I'm going to select just inside the boundary again. I'm going to select the outside vector here, and I'm going to use the smoothing tool, just the general one, for everything inside this area, just to make sure it brings just to give me a better surface area. So just one, probably add that a couple of times, just to smooth those little bits out. Okay, I'm now going to select the main body shape which I made earlier. I'm just going to copy that to a new folder, so turn that back on again, copy it. You see it's made the fish a little bit deeper. I'm going to copy it, and I want to turn the main fish off and the main body shape, and I'm going to use this now as a blender. So this is going to be a multiplier if you like, and I'm just going to scale that now to a particular height. So that means anything that's 1mm will stay the same, anything under it will be reduced. And I'm going to add this now onto the top surface, and what that does, it blends everything down to the edges. It sort of takes all the model that's above it and blends it down to give us a nice smooth transition from the edge to the fish itself. So just turn the blender on, get in the right place. It's a multiplier button. Just change the icon there for a multiplier. You can see now it blends right and nice and smooth down to that edge here. Okay, once I've done that, I just need to give it a little bit of height now, because I've got the fish shape that I wanted from the vectors. I'm now going to add a base height here, another layer, just to sort of raise the fish a little bit more, because I know I've got it blending down to the surface, and I do want a little bit of an edge on it to make it easier so it doesn't have a feather edge on it. I'm going to call this probably the base layer. Okay, I'm going to give it a base height, make it a base height instead. Okay, and on here now, I'm going to put that just under the blender, so it doesn't blend in with the rest of it. And I'm going to put that as a total koi main body. So that's the main body with all the blending, with the merged filing rather. And now I'm going to use the base height. So just click on here, use the vector again, put that at the top, F12 or double click on it and get the shape editor up, and at 0.1 each time now I'm just pushing 0.1 underneath that surface. So you can see I've got a little fine edge now. It comes down nicely to the edge, and then I've built a little platform for it to sit on. So that's pretty much finished the fish itself. I just need to do something now with the fin section and smoothing around these areas. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is probably build the fin, and I'm going to use a bit of sculpting for this. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call it probably fin. Okay, that'll do. And then underneath here, I'm now going to use this layer to start sculpting underneath the fin itself. I'm going to say it's going to deposit tool, and I'm just going to put it in the area that I wanted to add it to. In fin, just make sure it's in on the right layer, so I can always turn that off if I need to change that at any point. So I'll just go back up on the fin layer, make sure it is there, and I'm going to now carve or add some material now underneath that surface. So just over the top you see a little shadow there, and I'm just now building that fin shape. I want the fin to stand up rather than being lying flat here. I want it to be more of a 3D shape. So I'm just literally putting material underneath that, just bulking it out, just by sculpting it. You can use a vector if you wanted to and use the angle plane, but here you can see it live and see sort of interaction with it, so you can see what you're doing. Again, I'm going to use a little bit closer now. I want to take the rest of that fin up at the back just to smooth it off. I want to bring this up, make the body a little bit thicker here around this area, and take the tip of the fin as well, bring that up, just bulk this out a little bit first. And I'm not damaging anything to do with the model underneath, I'm just pushing some material underneath this shape just to get that fin coming up as more of a 3D model. I'm now going to just deal with that last bit on the edge here, bring that up just a little bit more so it's more in the shape of a fin. I'm going to do a clipping tool in a minute. I'm going to use the vector to sort of trim everything else outside, so zero rest outside once I've done this little bit. Just a bit more sculpting here, make the fin more realistic shape, so we've got a bit more of a 3D shape now on this. I'm going to use the vector down the outside. I'm going to use the F12 zero rest. That will chop out all the bits of the bleed that I've got going on down below. Okay, so now I'm going to do probably a smoothing pass as well now on the rest of the item, or I'll use some sculpting, some smooth sculpting. I'll just raise that little bit there first of all before I do that. That should be okay, and use the F12 tool again just to trim out that trim out everything outside, so zero rest. Just check it all over, make sure it's all okay. I'm now going to use a smoothing tool just to smooth on this edge here. So I'm smoothing still on the fin, but I'm just breaking that edge down a little bit so it's not so sharp as it falls away off the edge of the fish. Use a bit more on here, so I'm just sculpting that away to make it so it's not so sharp. That's fine, and use the zero rest again to get rid of the bleed. Just making that shape a little bit more friendly. It's worth spending a little bit of time here at this point just to make sure that that's trimmed out correctly. Okay, I think the fin's pretty much done. I'm just going to merge this layer again now, so I'm going to merge everything that I've done so far, just so I've got a finished fish. I'm going to rename that now finished koi, just to give it a different name. So I've got this part of the fish, I've got all the things underneath it, but I've also got a finished fish of where I want to be with this. I'm now just going to use just a general smooth over that top surface now using the sculpting tool, so you can see I'm just going over the top surface now. I'm just going to set a safety plane here, 0.005, so it won't bleed, so you have an option here to stop it from bleeding onto the edges, and you can use that, or you can just trim out with the tool. It's up to you. Okay, I'm just making those scales look a bit more attractive. And again, I've had to do hardly any work here at all. I've just taken an image in. I've asked Artcam to prep it for me using the black and white picture and the vectors. It's traced it for me, and I've just put a few little domes underneath and now smoothing out. So really quite simple to do. Okay, once the fish is done, I can then store it into my library. So I'll just finish off the smoothing options here. But that fish now can be used in lots of other different models that I want to make. So once that's done, I'm going to save it out. I'm going to save this as the koi carp. Save it as the art file. It is only an art file at the moment. We're going to have to open a project folder in a few minutes. First of all, before I do that though, it's a finished koi carp. So now I'm going to just drag it into my library first of all. So library open. There's a space there for it, and if you just grab the folder and drag it straight over, you'll see the little plus sign. It'll add the fish into there for me. So I've now got my own koi carp already ready to go onto the ring that I'm going to make. Okay, I need to open up a project folder now, so I'm going to close this folder down and import it into a project folder so it keeps all things together, including the ring. So I'll just say close the model, save it. Okay, now I'm going to open a new model, and it's going to be a ring this time. So first of all, I'm going to import that fish just to make sure it all stays in the same area. So import the koi carp. So that's now in my project folder. I'm going to use this as part of my project, and you can open it from here too. This gives me a lot more features, so some of the new features that we're going to use in the design of the fish ring. So I'm just opening another a ring blank section here. Use the numbers on the screen. There's the default ones. You can change them if you want to, but I'm going to say about size Q. I want a little bit more room because this is quite a wide ring, so 14 and a 5 border either side. I'm going to make it quite thick because I want to do a little court ring underneath it. Okay, it's opened up the model for me. The first thing from the standard routine here, you can see that Artcam's made a little straight-sided ring for me, but they've got a little taper on the edges, and I want to correct those. So I'm just going to just click them, edit them, so node edit, and just straighten them using X on the keyboard. Same here, N for node edit, select the item, N for node edit, press X, and it will just straighten the edges. Okay, I'm going to rerun that routine now. If we just go back to the folder here and just say rerun it, but with straight edges this time for me. And then Artcam puts them straight for you. Okay, tick the box, accept that ring, that's fine. I'm now going to use just some simple offsetting options here. So if you click the center line here, we're going to offset outwards both ways. Just use the offset icon. Just turn on the image so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to use the offset button here. Just need to make some vectors to control where I'm going to put the channel settings. So I'm going to offset from the center 3.5 both sides. You could do the same again for the center if you wanted to, or just simply select these two lines here, so this one and this one. I'm not going to draw a straight line with a little icon here. Fix both lines to make a full watertight vector. Okay, I'm going to use these two now. Just unwrap the ring again here. I'm just going to use those two now to put the chamfer on the edge. I'm going to use the fade relief tool here, so I'm going to select the first point starting here, select the second point finishing here, and I want to sort of, before I create, I want to sort of halve that. I want it to come down about half, about 50%, something like this on the edge. So once I've done that, I can now just mirror that across to the other side. I don't need to do that again. Just wrap it up and then use the mirror tools. So we want bottom over top and apply. So now I've got my vectors correct. I'm now going to offset those to put the channel settings in. So I know my centers here and where I'm going to put the channels. So I'm just going to offset this one inwards. I'll just stretch it out a little bit first so it matches the other one. And if you use the Alt button at the same time, you can drag it just so it's over the edge. so when we offset it's a nice clear sharp edge. Okay, on these two now I'm going to offset this one. We're going to offset inwards, and the same again here, 1mm each one. I'm going to set outwards for this one. Okay, so now I've got myself my little channels that I'm going to make, and all I have to do now is just select those, and we're going to put them on a separate layer. So this layer I'm going to put on new. This is going to be the rails or the channels, and then just select those. F12. I'm just going to use the shape editor for this. Don't need to do any sweeps or anything. Shape editor, something like 90 degrees, and we'll add those in. Take off the vectors just so you can see what's happening. I'm going to add those on to the surface. That's quite nice. Probably add them again. They're a bit shallow, so add them once more. Make them a bit deeper. Okay, fine. So we've got the channels on the outside. The ring's pretty much ready. I just need to make a little concave on the internal surface here, so it looks like it's going to hold the water, give it a bit more shape. So I'm just going to unwrap those again. We'll just select vector, make a new layer. I'm going to call this concave this time, just so I've broken this down into all separate parts, and then I can reuse these afterwards, or turn them off if I don't like them. I'm going to put it towards the top here, and F12 just to get the shape editor button up again. Not much this time, -15, and add that into the surface. I'm adding a subtraction into the surface. I'm sure you're all aware. Okay, so that's just doing that for me. So now I've got a little concave ring here. That's just what I want. Turn off the vectors again. So that's finished the main body of the ring, and now I can start applying the textures, the fish, and all the things. Now the back file, I want to put a little court shaped ring in here, so I'm going to add probably just one of my library rings. This is quite a neat way of doing this as well, especially with new tools that we have with the clip art library. Just before I do that though, I'm going to just merge all those layers on the top into one layer. I'm going to call that probably the koi shank layer. I'm just going to merge them all first, just rename that. I'm going to call that koi shank. So all those together now in here, and then I'll deal with the pasted back file afterwards. Okay, I'm going to drag that into my folder here, so I've got that as part of my library now of shanks. I can use these at any time because I've made a new shank. And then I'm going to use one of these ones now to go on the back. So inside here I'm going to drag just a plain sort of court style ring, drag it in, press F9, and it puts it in the center. Okay, we need to add a new layer on this on the folder as well. Just press enter so it pastes it down. Even though I've got minus selected, it's doing the wrong thing at the moment. It needs another layer to act with, so just add a new layer in there, position those correctly, and then it will do the right thing. So a plus at the bottom and then a minus on this layer will reverse that surface. It's made the shank a little bit thicker here, so now I need to scale this with the scale option. So select scale, and I want to set it to a particular thickness. So I want it 1mm exactly. Apply. So now it's the thickness internally is 1mm. So if I just click on the surface here and add 1mm, that now makes it the correct size of the original size. And just to check it out, if we look down through the ring itself, and we can turn on the internal surface. Now if we just keep turning that on and off, you can see it's not changing. The internal surface is absolutely correct. So that model's ready. We just need to add now some of the decoration on the outside, some textures and that sort of thing. Okay, I need to add a folder now for the texture, because that's the next thing I'm going to do. To make that easier, I'm just going to turn off the main shank now that I've created with the merged option, and I'm going to just turn on the individual layers at the front now. So turn off that one, and build files that I started with, just turn those on. This will mean that I can turn them on and off to see how that texture is going to work. So a new layer, I'm going to put this as textured layer. I'm going to open the texture icon, and I'm going to say selected vector. I haven't selected the vector yet, but I will shortly. I want to now just select the image. I'm going to bring this into the screen, so it's turned that into 3D for me already. going to size it a little bit, probably about 19, that'll be fine. And now I'm going to select the vector that I want it to go around, which is this outside vector here. And I'm going to just deal with the height. I want it to be about 0.3, 0.4, something like that off the surface. We'll try 0.5 and add that in. So now I've got the texture on that surface. I'll close this down, that's fine. I'm now going to pick up that pattern. I'll just close this dialog box down first here. I'm going to pick up this pattern now and move it into place using the new clip art functionality. So I'll just close this box here and go onto the layer with the texture, and Control T will lift it off the surface again. Control T. So now it's here. I just need now to unwrap this ring so I can see it all together, and I need to take away the original ring just so it's a little bit thinner so I can see what's going on. Just put the rails will be fine. So just turn those off. And just the rail. So now I can see where I've got to position this ring, these ripples. So just collect them, click them, and now I can start moving them around. So I'm going to move that up slightly. You can use the arrow keys as well. So if you go from the top surface here, I'll put that in the center again. I'll use the arrow keys this time to move them up into position. That will be fine. And I'm going to paste that back down again onto the textured surface. Just press enter. Once it's on texture, select the item and press enter. Once it's on textured layer. So now it's back in, and now I'm going to trim with just one of the vectors, just 0 rest. So I'll just pick up one of the vectors now. 0 rest. And then seal that in place. Excellent. Okay, so now I've got my texture layer on too. You can see it's just going over the side edge here, so I will just do that again. Just pick up the vector, F12, 0 rest. That should just trim out all the odd pieces that we have hanging around. Okay, so that's just inside that center surface, now. So that's quite a nice new option that we've got in Artcam. Just going to apply a couple of smoothing passes on there, just on that vector itself. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just make sure that's the right height. So that center section, I'm just going to pick up the texture itself. Just check out that it's right depth. Just open the icon, texture layout. Need the relief height, scale height, 0.5. Just make sure that's exactly 0.5 millimeter. Okay, pretty much ready now to start adding the fish into this section. So the first thing I'm going to do is from my relief clip art library, I'm going to fetch the fish and drag it onto the screen. So now this is part of my clip art option. So you can see, drag him in. It's quite big because it came in as the original size of the image. Just unwrap the ring, and then I'm going to position the fish. Just change him with the floating clip art. Put him into position. I'm just going to turn a few of these things off now so I can see the fish more clearly. So turn off the shank itself, just leave the 2 rails and the little ripples. Scale the fish down, put him into the position that I want him. Just want him to fit inside those rails. Look from the top view in the 3D view. Just position that now, just shaping him, pulling him. Fantastic. Okay, that'll do fine. Once I've got to the right size, I'm going to make a nice layer for him to be seated on. And we're going to paste him along a curve so we get a few of these in the window. So just move him off the screen for a little while, and then I'm going to paste along a curve. Before I do that, just add a new layer in here. I'm going to call these the koi carp. So this is my carp layer, and I'm going to paste them all onto this layer. Make sure he's selected first of all. Select the clip art, paste along a curve, and you can see now I'm using the standard paste along option. 5 of them, and now I'm going to select just the end one, and just select them all, ungroup. That should deselect this one. Regroup these 4, Control G, and in the centre, either F9 or use the option there to put them in the centre. Delete the one that I don't want. The nice option now with clip art is I can move these wherever I want. I can either just drag them or use them with the arrow keys. So I've grouped them all. I'm just going to move them into a different place on the koi carp layer. Pull them up a little, that's fine. And then paste them down again. Press enter and they'll stay on the koi carp layer. Excellent. Okay, I'll move the koi carp now down to the bottom of the layer because I want those to be okay and standing above the ripples. So let's just wrap those back up again. Just before I do that, I'm going to get rid of all the vectors that I had originally, pasted down. Get rid of all the bits and pieces. And I want some new vectors now because the fishes have changed position. So if you use the boundary tool here, create boundary, so that now has made a little boundary around all of those fishes on that correct layer. I'm just going to raise them up now so it pushes them up through those ripples there, just one by one. Just turn off the vector so I can see it a little bit more clearly. Turn on the ring itself, vectors off, so I can do this in full 3D at this stage, and I can just put point one at a time as they come through to the surface. So they're just above the ripples, that's just what I want. Just checking all the way around. Okay, what I can do now with some of the new morphing tools, we've got the envelope distortion tool now. I'll just unwrap these again so we can see them. Turn off the thicker ring part just so I can see what I'm dealing with. And I'm going to pick just this center fish here and I'm going to change it. So I've got the vector already. Deselect, select only that one, and Control T, that lifts it off the surface, and now I can change it. So I'm going to bend it round, and I want to change the shape of it this time as well, so I'm going to distort the whole fish completely. So I just drag it, rotate it. So these are just some of the ordinary rotation tools. Just position it so I can see it from a different angle. Probably look at it from the front instead. Paste it down. You can lift it up and paste it down as many times as you want to. So it's a different shape. I'm just going to get rid of that vector. And because I've pasted it now, I need to make another boundary. So just run the boundary tool again. And now it'll make a new boundary around that fish in its new position. Okay, I need to change that now. I'm going to select it, pick it up, and use the envelope distortion tool. So select. I'll just get rid of these odd bits of clip art, or odd bits of vectors rather. Control T lifts it off the surface, and now I'm going to use the distortion tool. So envelope distortion on. And now I'm dragging the fish into a different shape. So that's any bit of clip art that you have, you can now change the shape of it directly in here. You can clip pieces off, you can take certain sections off, change them, morph them with other sections, or just change the whole shape of the model in full 3D in real time. Okay, once you're happy with the shape, you can paste it back down again. I'm just going to paste that back down onto the surface, into the same area, and just just enter rather, once you've selected the piece of clip art. So just change that shape just a little bit more. Again, you can spend as much or a little time as you want to get that right. Don't forget to press finish. It is really important to make sure you press finish, otherwise it will just go back to as it was before it started. Enter, and paste it back onto the carp layer. Okay, fantastic. So now we've got a fish that's completely a different shape and facing a different direction and on the same layer. I can just pick this piece of clip art up here. This is just in the way at the moment. Just move that out of the way. That's okay, that's good. And then turn off the vectors again. Right, I'm just going to check over the whole model now. Probably just do a bit of scaling on the fish. Probably just going a little bit too high there. Some of the back fins, so I just want to just drag those down a little. If I go into the scale option, make sure it's on the layer of the koi carp itself, and then use the scale option. And I'm going to scale that now down to about, let's say about 1.4 mil and apply. So the fish now are just a little bit smoother and shallower in that section. Okay, the next thing I want to do is add some lilies onto the top of this surface. I don't have any except in my clip art. Before I do that, you can see here the ripples now are not in the right place. They're slightly covering the fish, so I'm going to raise those up a little bit. I just need the boundary tool again. So I want to create a boundary. Make sure I'm on the carp layer, or the koi carp layer. I'm now going to use the boundary tool, just so I've got vectors selected underneath them. I'm going to ask it to trace around each one of them. We can't see it, but it's actually happening under the bonnet here. And then I'm going to use the F12 tool. I know that the boundaries have been done. I'm going to use the F12 tool, 0.1, and I'm just going to raise those up until I can see them just popping through the surface, so you can see that now, and that'll do fine. Excellent. Okay, already I'm just going to look for a little bit of a lily section there. We know we've got one in the Relief Clip Art library. I'm just going to bring one of those in, and then we want to make it so we can push it onto the surface and follow those ripples. So this is a bit of assembly work as well on surfaces, which is quite nice. Okay, so I need to bring the lily in first of all. I'm going to shape that because it's quite flat at the moment. So let's go and have a look for it. I'll just save the project first, make sure everything's saved. And let's go and look in the Relief library. I'll make a new layer. This one's going to be called lilies or leaf. We'll call this lily. So just one lily I'm going to bring in first of all on this surface. So I'm going to go and look for that now. Turn off everything else. Make it all flat and just put the vectors on here. So I'm going to use this now to start developing the lily that I want for the surface. So I'll just go and pick something out of the library, something like this one, drag it on. I need to make sure it's the right size. So it's here somewhere. If you don't see it show up, just make sure you turn on the clip art icon. Drag it into the center. Just need to size it and scale it a little bit, go a bit closer. That's fine. And again, what we can do here, we can change that shape of that lily just with the envelope distortion tool. So that's what I'll probably first do. Control, it's on the lily layer. And I'm going to just pick it up and change it. Control T. Create a boundary first of all for it. On the lily layer, that's perfect. And now Control T. And I'll lift it off that surface. And now I can use the envelope distortion tool again. I'm going to change the shape of these leaves here. So envelope distort. It's giving me some more handles to start bending. You can insert nodes as well. Just bending this around so I get a sort of pleasing shape. So this is quite nice that we can do this. This is a new feature that we've not been able to do before, all on the fly. All live till we get the shape that we want to, that we're happy with. And once we're happy, don't forget to press the finish button. Again, you can spend as much time as you want on these types of things. Okay, something like that. Press finish. Don't forget to press finish, otherwise it'll go back to what it was before it started. That's excellent. And just make sure it's on the surface. So I'm going to enter now, enter that back in again. Let's push that back down to the surface now. So I've just changed the top surface. Now I'm going to change the 3D surface. I want to change underneath. I'm going to use a sculpting for this. So I'm going to say create a boundary. First of all, this is a new boundary because it's changed its shape. And now I'm going to start sculpting under that. So I need to make a new layer for sculpting purposes. So I'm just going to take a copy now of the lily here. Just make a copy of that. Once I've pasted it down, enter, paste that down to the surface, and make a copy of the lily layer. I'm going to put that on the top, and I'm going to just put it next to the lily so I know where it is. And I'm going to say Alt-RR to take away. I've got two lilies together here. I only want one, so Alt-RR, which is the shortcut just to flatten that one underneath off. And then I'm going to start sculpting now, just underneath the leaves. So you can see I'm just bending it. I'm not actually sculpting the lily itself, just the layer that's underneath it, just to make those shapes nice and sharp. Okay, so we're changing the leaf now in 3 dimensions too. So we've changed the look on the top. I'm just giving it a little bit of a bump map underneath. Right, once I've done that, I'm now going to copy that to the back layer. So I'm going to drag it, pressing Control, and straight down into the back layer of the relief. And those two together cancel each other out, so you're left with a 3D model. The two front and back layers of the sculpting are like a split line, and they cancel each other out. Okay, I'm ready to make that now into a component library. So we'll just say Mesh Creator. I want to do with a back relief, create. Everything else is off, just the lilies I'm dealing with here. Create them, add them to project. That looks okay, 3D shaped. Add to project. We can check under it, over it, and add to project. So I've got a nice 3D relief lily now that I want to use for the top surface and use on surface normals. So inside the assembly folder now there'll be a new option. Just going to turn off all the relief layers on the top. I want to deal with just the model itself. So this is an STL model. I'm just going to force it to the center, and I'm going to reset now the origin points. So I want to just push that up just so it's just resting on the surface. So nudge up just a tad, probably a little bit more. Center the object, and I'm going to reset now this world center. So the world center now, you see the origin points moved up. Point 1, and just set that center again, and I set world center now again in here. And I'm also going to make sure that the model inside there is the same, is done for that. So in here, go down here, and set world center, so they all follow the same rule. And now I can start using that now on my top surface. So I'll turn all the items on again now, all the outside relief layers, and then leave the lily in the center, and we can see how it all comes together. So rotate the whole option, put the front and back reliefs on. We don't need the lily on anymore, but we do need the ring. So I'm going to turn all the parts to do with the ring, turn those on. So this is a little bit different to a clip art or to the free relief clip art. This is an STL now that we're working on, but we can drag this now on a surface. This is an assembly folder. So I'm going to turn on the shank, turn on the channels, turn on all the parts that I need, including the ripples and the fish as well. Okay. On the back file, we're just going to have a look inside here and drag this lily into the surface. Just put the court shaped ring on the inside, the comfort fit, and now I can start. The lily's a little bit too big at the moment, so I need to scale that down. I don't want it that big, probably want it about 50% of the size. Apply that. So now I can start dragging this around to the surface. I'm going to use the lay on surface option inside assemblies. So if we go to the assembly folder, and I have a thing called lay on surface, select the item, and then I want to drag that around the surface now. So once you've selected lay on surface, we can pick it up in 3D, and you'll see now it's just hovering over the surface wherever I place that lily shape. And I'm going to make a copy of this. The way to make a copy is that you say here, Control, and drag it up into the assembly folder, so you get a second copy. This one now, if you go to the 3D view, you can just pull that around. Artcam recognises that's what you want to do, and it's just hovering above that surface. And again, I'll just do another copy here, drag it up, and again I'm going to pull that out and float it around that surface. So really quite a nice feature. Things that we weren't able to do before, really wonderful feature. Okay, and now I'm going to drag all those into one little folder and then rotate those round, just so I don't have to position every one. So make a new assembly folder. I'm going to call this probably lilies. Just drag all those in. Now that's taking care of everything on that folder. Make about 4 of them. around the X. In the new root directory now I have all these lilies, but I can go and select them even though they're pasted round. I can still go just straight to the lily that I want to move and move them into place. Just select it, Artcam knows which one you want to move, and again it's going to follow the same attributes, looking for the surface underneath. And again we can go around and change a few of these. We'll just move them. Excellent. Okay, so the lilies are in place too. Now we just need to find a setting that we want to put on the edge. Just close all those assembly parts down for now. I'm going to call those lilies, so I know when I come back to them I can deal with them quite easily. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to look for a component part now, just using some of the settings that we have inside the assembly folder. So this is going to be settings. I just need to drag one on the screen first of all, go and find an appropriate one. So in this folder here on eternity ring settings, I want to pick this one. It's a one-piece setting with a gem inside. I'll select that. It may be too big for starters. Just make sure you click the select button. Okay. It says 2.5 at the moment. I know for this particular design it'll take a setting of about 1.3, so I'll just type 1.3 in here, and that'll size the gem stone ready. So 1.3, import it in. You should make use of these component libraries because they are very useful. Okay, inside here, I just want to scale that down in the Z now, just so it fits into this section, so about 1.6. 1.6 looks a little too tall, so I'm going to make that 1.2, I think. Squash that down. Really quite a nice feature here. So now I'm going to lay on relief tool, and again a top tip here is if you press shift when you drag it, everything comes together, otherwise it will take the collet first and then the gem. So shift and drag and everything comes that's inside that assembly. Just going to position that into place, and I'll use the nudging tools now I think from the side just to push it into the surface. So let's have a quick look from the surface here. Just need to get the nudging tools, 0.1, nudge that down, so that's about right, that's okay. And then I'm going to change that, just have a quick check round, I'm just going to change that now to platinum colour I think. Have a quick look around, that looks okay, everything looks to be correct. I'm just going to pick that item and change that now with some of the rendering tools. So if we go to the assembly folder, top level, we don't need to go into the base level here, just go to the top level, and I'm going to do some rendering. So just looking for platinum and a little bit further down. Okay, so platinum, select that one, and so now we have a platinum outside rail. Okay, I'm just going to do the copy rotate tool now. Select the item, copy rotate, it's 360, around about 45 gems will fit on the X, and I want it to nest into another assembly. So this just gives you the option to delete if you get that wrong. Okay, just need to mirror that now using the mirror option. We'll go across YZ, that's the blue one, apply, and now I've got my settings all finished. So we're pretty much reaching the end of the design. Just need to check a few things over. The channels look a little bit shallow, so I'm going to probably just build those up. That's quite simple to do. We just need to turn the vectors back on again. I just want a higher channel wall for those settings to be inside. So I'm just going to turn on the vectors on the vector layer. Make sure I'm on the channel layer as well. So select those ones. So those are the two channels. And I'm going to do the F12. Put the shape editor, and then just watch those. Just go up a little bit higher. Make it 0.1 this time and just nudge them up. Perfect. Okay, that'll do fine. Once we're happy with that, just turn off everything. Now I'm going to render the center image too. Put a 9 carat finish on, 24 carat finish on this too. So render. I want to make it 24 carat, apply that one, The lilies are a different colour, so I just need to change those because these are in the assembly folder. To change those to 24 character match. Okay, so you can see there we're using some STL models and some renders, some pictures, some component libraries to make a finished ring. Really quite a complex job to be able to do. Okay, we can send this now directly for rendering too, which is quite nice. So we're going to use some of the key shots, a new feature in here. This won't go into any detail about the key shot features, just to sort of show you how we can do that. I'm just going to make this to a full component first of all, so save it as an STL model and create triangles. This is just for the bits that remain as relief models. You don't have to do this. Artcam will take care of both of those options, but just to if you wanted to make sure yourself, then you can do this. But for rendering purposes, Artcam will do all that for you underneath the bonnet when you press render. Okay, I have two options here now, so I'm just going to take away the relief model and just colour in now the final 3D8, so that's all now triangulated models. And now I'm ready to start rendering. So we're going to use to view, send to keyshot, and the keyshot will fire up immediately, and then it'll start to render the model. So it's already brought it in on a base plane here. I'm just going to colour those. The black here is the platinum. It's just not recognised that on the way in. That's okay. It's fairly simple to do. So we're going to use the buttons at the bottom of the screen. It's a fairly simple thing. 7 buttons. They'll pretty much take care of the whole of the programming keyshot. Project folder. First of all, I'm going to just have a look at the environment. Just open that up and just change the wheel a little bit here. So I'm just going to change the brightness. Turn that down a little bit. You can play with these. These are your standard options here. We have some KSP files that we've made that I'll show you in a few moments how you can load those. But this is just dragging some of the standard one around here. You can position it, you can change the height of the lights, change the ambient light. So you get an idea of how you can quickly make a good environment for this. And then in here, in the scene section here, these are all the items that have come in, so you can select each individual item. So you can see this is a platinum claw. It's just not recognised. That usually does, but just not on this. Some occasions it doesn't recognise things as it comes in. So what we're going to do now, they're all listed underneath here. So all we have to do is start up the library folder, which is here, and then we can get hold of all the textures and the materials that we're going to use. So I'm just looking for precious metals now, and we'll look for platinum shiny, and drag it onto the claw itself, and you'll see it just changes immediately. So now it knows that all those claws should be platinum, and it's changed them for me without having to worry too much. Okay, gemstones. We have a little gemstone here called Ideal Diamond. This will give a little bit more colour when it starts to render. So we want some flashes of reds and greens and blues coming out. It'll use this Ideal Diamond instead, so it'll change all those now as well that are listed under diamond. It will change them all to the Ideal Diamond. And then you can start just positioning in the screen using your mouse, and you'll see it's a live render, so it's rendering all the time. It's trying to improve the rendering all the time we're moving the model. And the longer you leave it on the screen, the better that becomes. So already you can see we've got quite a nice environment that we've created here just by a few simple clicks. Okay, I'm going to just load probably a KSP file that we've got that we've supplied you behind disk. So you can see it, open package. These are package files that you can't say because this is a standard license, but we can supply you with these. So there's a few that you can have straight away, which will be on your disk. I'm just going to load one that I've already prepared for this, so you can see I've got all the backgrounds, I've got the reflections off the bottom surface here. And quickly you can use these just to drag your models into. So if you just say send to keyshot, it will actually open up into one of these environments already, so there's very little work to do. Okay, inside here now I'm going to just duplicate this model. I want to make a copy of that. I'm going to just drop it into in front of it. This is probably a quicker way than doing it in Artcam. It's already here. We've done all the colouring on it, so we only have to colour one. We only have to render one, if you like, or apply all the materials to one. And then we're going to take a duplicate of that, and then we're going to put that in a different orientation so we can take a nice screenshot. I'm going to use position it, so you can use either these buttons here or the ones at the bottom, so you can either manually turn it with the icons that are on the screen, or if I just type in here a particular position, you'll see the model will change. I'll rotate it at 90, I'll rotate it so it's lying on its side now, and snap it to the ground. And then I was going to use it's a little bit close to the one there, so I'm going to use the translate tools now just to drag that across the surface and out of the way. Take it around with the mouse, find a pleasing position. Ground size, make that just a little bit bigger. You see the ground was a little bit small there. It was okay for one ring, but I wanted now to make it for two rings, so I need just to make that a little bit bigger. And you can type in here, even when you reach the end of the drag option on the dynamic slide bar, you can still type in manually, and it will give you a bigger area to work in. Okay, you can see that now Keyshot is still improving that image all the time. So as we leave it, it'll start to get better and better and better all the time. So once you've got the position correct and you're happy with the particular view, just leave Keyshot to carry on working, and it will improve that shot until you decide to save. So again, this is just a matter of how you feel about the presentation of a particular, this is down to personal choice really. Find a pleasing view, leave the model, and it will just carry on rendering. Just to make sure, I'm going to just change a little bit of the light itself now, where it's coming from, the different angles it's coming from, see if I can get a better effect from that. And also, just before this point, you want to set everything to the highest resolution that you're going to use. Careful again, because if it's too high, it will take a long time to do. So there's a bit of a trade-off here. So I'm just finding the nice ambient light. A few reflections coming through there. That should be about right. Okay, let's check a few other things here. I'll make sure the focus is on this point here. Select done, so it's going to focus on that particular area. I want the f-stop not to fade out behind it. I want everything nice and crisp in this section. I'm just going to check the settings now, so ray bounces and brightness. Put a bit more brightness on the subject here. Gamma rays is always good as well, make it much more realistic. You can always alter those. Just check everything over. We've got ray bounces of 11 at the moment on this one. If we're happy with that, just let it render. You can take a screenshot of this. On the bottom of the screen it's got screenshot. You can press that little button. That'll take an instant screenshot so you can use in your presentations. You'll see it come on and it'll tell you a little line there, tell you where it's going to write that to in this little folder. Okay, that completes the demonstration for Artcam Smith 2013 and a quick overview of Keyshot. There is a further Keyshot Getting Started presentation in this series.